Jesus, it's so good to see you. I just wanted to, oh man, that mission you sent us out on, oh, it's incredible. We were healing the sick. We were preaching the good news about you. Oh man, we had so many people be like, man, tell me more, tell me more. We had a couple towns where, we had to shake off the dust, like you said. Mercy be upon them. But man, everything else went so good. What do you mean I'm burying a lead? Why is James's hand over Peter's mouth? Well, because on our way back, I don't know how else to tell you this, but your cousin is dead. This is the emotional beat where we come into the story today. Last week, Jamie preached the section in which King Herod says, I beheaded John. What is missing between Jamie's scripture and my scripture is the story of how that happened. And it is a story that I encourage you to read because it is weird. It is probably something that you would see on an episode of Game of Thrones. There is family betrayal. There is family on family action. It is. If you have any interest in Game of Thrones, you should definitely check out this passage. Sum it up. King Herod's wife is mad at John because John is calling them out for being brother and sister. King Herod is terrified of John, so he's just put him in prison. King Herod's wife gets his daughter to dance when the king is drunk, so that the king will go, I will give you anything, up to half my kingdom. And the mom has coached her daughter to say, give me the head of John the Baptist. King has no choice. He beheads John. After all of this, he is left out of the prison. He's just laying on the ground because we see that his followers come, take the body, and bury it. When we get into our text today, we start with the apostles obviously having heard of this. And they are doing their report after Jesus has sent them out to go be the first missionaries, to go and bring the good news, to heal the sick, to drive out demons. They come back for the report. The apostles returned to Jesus and told him all about what they had done and taught and heard. And he said to them, come away by yourselves to a desolate place and rest a while. For many were coming and going, and they had no leisure to even eat. And so they went away in a boat to a desolate place by themselves. Yeah, no kidding, come away. It seems that while the disciples have been off on their missionary journey, Jesus has not given up his. Jesus hasn't said, all right, go off, I'm going to take a break. Jesus is still ministering. There are crowds following Jesus everywhere he goes. Here there are so many people that they can't even have a moment to eat. I don't know if any of you have worked in a situation like that. Mixed blessing. Now as they went away, many people saw them going and recognized them. And they ran there on foot from all the towns and got there ahead of them. Remember, the disciples are going by boat. They are running along the shore. They get there ahead of them. When Jesus went ashore, he saw a great crowd. And he had compassion on them because they were like sheep without a shepherd. And so he began to teach them many things. Have you ever been interrupted in your desire to take a break? I mean, the whole purpose of this was to remove themselves from the crowd. And yet this crowd is so desperate that they will forego social convention. They will do the faux pas of rudely showing up where they're not wanted. Jesus models how we should react to this. Even though you need a break, look at the people. These people are so desperate. They're like sheep without a shepherd. I think we could do to be a little more desperate. Has your interactions with Jesus ever felt like what is described here? I know there was a time where I was like that. I'm desperate. I am coming on, and I will forego anything in order to get more of Jesus. I confess, now, that doesn't happen as much as I think it should. So we're going to get into the crux. If you recognize where this is going already, this is the first of the great feedings. And so let's dig into it. When it grew late, his disciples came to him and said, "This is a desolate place, and the hour is now late. Send the crowd away to go into the surrounding countryside and villages so they can buy themselves something to eat." But Jesus answered them, "You give them something to eat." And they said to him, "Shall we go and buy 200 denarii worth of bread and give it to them?" Denarii is about a day's wage. So, thousands of dollars in our money. This is an incredulous statement. This is, oh yeah, I'm just going to take $50,000 and go feed everybody in the church. Like, it's unreasonable to think the disciples had access to that. And that is the point of that, is that this is a ridiculous ask that Jesus has given. So Jesus says, "How many loaves do you have? Go and see." And when they found out, they said, "We have 5 loaves and 2 fish." As you saw in the picture, these are not great big rye loaves of bread. It's more like a bun. This is enough for 1, maybe 2 people. 5 and 2 fish. So Jesus commanded them all to sit down in groups on the green grass. So they sat down in groups by hundreds and by 50s. And taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, he looked up to heaven, said a blessing, and broke the loaves, and gave them to the disciples to set before the people. And he divided the 2 fish among them all. And they all ate and were satisfied. They all ate and were satisfied. And they took up 12 baskets full of broken pieces of bread and of the fish. And those that ate the loaves were 5,000 men. There's a phrase that we might use for this. It's a weird flex. If you haven't heard this phrase before, this is a weird flex is when you see somebody doing something where they're showing off, but it's not what you would expect. It's kind of strange. It's right there in the name. It's a weird flex. Jesus could have done so many things if he wanted to feed them. He could have instantly multiplied the food. All of a sudden, the 5 loaves and 2 fish become thousands of loaves and thousands of fish. But no, he breaks them into pieces, and as people are eating, eventually they realize, I'm full, and there is more left over than we started with. The multiplication of the food is subtle. Another interesting thing, as we're looking into the Greek of this, is that when it says that they sat down in rows, there are 2 different words that are used. The first word for them sitting down in groups evokes the imagery of a drinking party. The second one gives the imagery of a nicely tilled garden. The rows of hundreds and 50s. This is a drinking party that is organized like a garden. Another weird flex. This is, I don't know if you've ever tried to corral a mob. This is, this is another miracle in and of itself. People do not naturally do this, and I just want you to imagine that picture of an orderly row of drinking party. We get to the blessing, and this is a tangent that there's few opportunities to talk about, but I had I had a great revelation about this when I was in Bible college. When you are saying a blessing, where is your attention? I think what we think of saying grace at lunch, we all picture heads bowed, Jesus looks up. Many of us still pray, bless this food. Now, bless the food, it comes from a theological idea that the food is dirty spiritually. So it needs to be blessed and cleansed for the body to be good. Some translations, because this has been going on for so long, will put in Jesus blessed the food when that is not present in the actual Greek. Jesus says a blessing. He looks up to heaven and he says a blessing. I think he blessed the people. I think he blessed the opportunity for people to be ministered to. He blessed the gift of what God has already given. He's not concerned about the food. Jesus says many other places in the Bible, he is not concerned with the food that you put into your body. He's concerned with your heart and what you are doing. If you've ever had lunch where I prayed, I bless the time that we spend together. I think it's good for us to, every once in a while, think about the stuff we do as Christians, because sometimes we just do it because we've always done it. Sometimes it's good to ask, well, why am I doing this? Am I just doing it because my parents told me to do it? Or is there a deeper reason? Is there a reason we should continue doing this? You absolutely should still say grace when you eat. But where is your attention? Are you worried about the food? Or are you worried about the company? And the last part of this miracle, 5,000 people ate to satisfaction. It wasn't a version of communion where we have you have a little piece of the bread, a little piece of the fish. They were just really good at dividing it among 5,000 people. You got a little morsel and you were like, oh, that's nice. I'm still hungry, but I enjoyed eating that tiny little bit. No, they ate until they were fully satisfied. They ate and ate and ate and went, man, I'm full. Where did all this food come from? This is where Jesus hammers in his point. But the disciples don't get it yet. So we have the next little part of this. Immediately after this, Jesus made his disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side, to Bethsaida. Well, he dismissed the crowd. Some other gospels put in this idea that the crowd wanted to make him king. Don't know why Mark doesn't think that detail is important, but Jesus takes it upon himself to dismiss the crowd. He doesn't have his disciples do it. He sends them off into the boat. After Jesus had taken leave of them, he went up and secluded himself on a mountain to pray. When evening came, the boat was out at sea, and Jesus was alone on the land. He saw that they were making headway painfully, for the wind was against them. And about the fourth watch of the night, which is about 3 a.m., he came to them walking on the sea. And I don't know if you caught that. Jesus saw them struggle and waited. There is a shift of time that took place there. Jesus saw them. He's on the mountain. He sees them doing it. It's late, but then they give a time. And that means that even more time has passed. It is now the middle of the night. They have been struggling for hours. Now Jesus goes and he walks on the sea. He meant to pass by them, but when they saw him walking in the sea, they thought it was a ghost and cried out, for they all saw him and were terrified. Do we recognize Jesus in the middle of our distress? Does it ever seem like Jesus is just right out of reach? He doesn't see. We will either miss Jesus entirely, we will think he is something else, or we will simply fail to call upon him. There's this pattern throughout Scripture where Jesus tells us time and time again, ask. I will do when you ask. I think a lot of our struggles and our frustrations come because we don't ask. We go, we can do this on our own. Humanity can do this on our own. I'm not going to ask for healing because I have a doctor. And if my doctor can't sort it, well, why would I expect a prayer from Jesus to do it? They all saw him, and they were terrified. Immediately he spoke to them and said, "Take heart, it is I. Do not be afraid." And he got in the boat with them. And the wind ceased, and they were utterly astounded, for they did not understand about the loaves, but their hearts were hardened. So what is the miracle of the loaves then? I think since we're tying this miracle of Jesus walking on water and causing the wind to cease, if Mark is tying it to the loaves, then there must be a common theme. I think the common theme is provision. You had 5,000 hungry people. Jesus provided food. He didn't provide extravagant things. It wasn't all of a sudden there's a banquet with roast beef, stuck pig, as many vegetarian options and vegan options as you want. The gluten-free table. No, it was a very simple provision, but it was enough to meet the needs. They're struggling in a boat for hours. They are tired. They are frustrated. Jesus comes in the middle of that and provides them the rest that they need. The rest that they started out looking for. Now is where they get the rest, after they have struggled even more. The message is that Jesus will provide. And I'm going to be honest with you, church. This is a struggle. It's a struggle for me. It's a struggle for a lot of people. We can know and we can see that Jesus will provide. We can see the miracles where he's come through. We can see in our own lives where Jesus has come through in the past. And in the moment, we go, where is my provision? Most of you know I am struggling with really bad health. It limits my ability to work. The limit of my ability to work limits our finances. And I am in this place where I'm like, the due date has come and passed. I need the provision of healing or the provision of money. Either of those would work. And yet, I go on getting sicker and sicker, losing more work, getting less money. Now, when I was in Bible college, I had a very similar issue. I had almost every semester that I was in Bible college where my tuition was due and I did not have the money for it. And I struggled every time, and every time the money came through in the 11th hour. One time the due date was passed by a day and the computer system hadn't put it through yet, and the money came in right before the computer system did it. I thought it was past 12, but 11th hour it came in through. I can see in my own past that God has come through. He will provide. He will provide. He has provided. But I confess in the midst of my current struggle, man, I'm angry at God. And being angry at God is okay. I don't know if anybody ever told you that. It is okay to have emotions when it comes to God. You are not less of a Christian because you are angry. You are not less a follower of Christ because you're frustrated. It is okay to have these emotions. These emotions do not mean that that is the truth of the situation. It is, you can have that balance between, I know provision will come, but I'm angry it's not here. That is something that's okay. You need to have, it's an opportunity for you to have more faith. And so what I think Jesus models for this is this idea of start with what you have. They started with enough food for 2 people in the face of 5,000 people. It is laughably not enough. Jesus knew it was not enough. The disciples knew it was not enough. Everybody knew this is not enough. Jesus says start there anyways. Quite often, he will not give you the abundance right up front. He will be like the miracle of the loaves. You will feel like you do not have enough the entire time, and suddenly you are past it and you are satisfied. You are full. You see in the rear view where the provision was that you could not see in the moment. This is the step out in faith that I'm doing, and if you are struggling, I encourage you to do it as well. What is your 5 loaves and 2 fish? For me, it's the little bit of energy that I have every day. I just step out in faith that it will be enough for whatever I'm facing that day. And sometimes it won't feel like it's enough. But it's another week, and I'm still here. And I still did what I needed to do. Start with what you have, even though it's not enough, and let Jesus cover the rest.